Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
Welcome.
Thank you. All right. First of all, thank you guys so much for having me here. I've been following SU for a while and just a huge fan of what SU is doing and, trying to bring about this exponential change. And, it just so happens that something that I kind of fell into maybe 12 years ago because I just wanted an excuse to build a really cool toy helicopter, which is I think how pretty much everybody has gotten into drones so far. Ended up being one of Peter Diamandis' top 10 meta trends that he's tracking. So really honored to be here today, talk to you guys a little bit about, we're going to try to answer the question, how long is it until you can jump in one of these air taxis when you call an Uber and it just tells you to go to the rooftop of this building or go over to this parking lot, and on your way over there you see your drone coming down and landing, you hop in, it takes you to your destination. Is that, well, first of all, let's kind of get a sense for where you guys are at. So I would say let's start by this. Raise your hand if you think that you'll be able to do that, call it in the next 30 years. Yeah, I mean, like the vast majority of people, right? All right, how about 20 years? Okay, that's good. 10 years? Okay, wow, that's optimistic. So you guys think for sure in 10 years you'll just call the Uber app and the thing will land and you'll just hop in and go. I mean, there's a chance that 5 years. How about 5 years? Okay, a lot less. 1 year. Wow, I love this. You guys are really listening to Ray's talk. We're getting very exponential around here. 6 months. Okay, right now, today. Okay, I love it. Okay, cool. So let's see. Why is it important, first of all, right? Why does it matter that we even make these things? Is it just like a fun way to travel around via the air instead of having to get in your car and, try to calm your central nervous system and not get triggered by poor drivers? No, I think there's more to it than that. First of all, way less energy consumption. And, while it does take a lot of energy to hover, flying in forward flight with something like Airbus's Vahana tilt rotor craft or anything that's got wings, and once you transition into forward flight with an electric powered vehicle, it's actually extremely efficient. Some of the vehicles today are already achieving around 245 watt hours per mile. And I know in a Tesla, it's kind of hard to get anything less than 300 to 330 watt hours per mile. The efficiency is there. And not only is it efficient to travel each mile, but because you're flying, you're taking a direct route. I live in Austin, Texas, on the west side, close to Lake Austin. And I can't tell you the number of times I'll open up Waze or something like that, and it'll say it's 4.5 miles away. And then when I say navigate, it's now 16 miles away because I'm driving around the lake or something like that. And, obviously, Berkeley to San Francisco is a great example of that. So when you can fly straight, you can get there a lot faster, a lot more efficiently, and you're burning less watts per mile. And then, of course, the Z-axis adds a whole bunch of new destinations. So the amount of money that people are spending, or the amount of money that society has spent building roads, imagine building a road through a mountain. It's an incredible effort. And so eventually when our cars are flying, there'll be a lot of areas where you don't necessarily need to build a road or a bridge if there's a small amount of traffic getting there. You can land on top of a building. You can get to places that cars just can't get to. Also, they're all going to be autonomous, of course. We don't want to, one of the themes of this talk is going to be how an eVTOL air taxi is not a shrunk down helicopter or plane. It's actually a blown up, unmanned autonomous drone. And for those things, you don't need a pilot. Now, we may have pilots initially because of FAA regulations, just like, the Ollie having a person sitting inside or Waymo having people sit inside. But eventually, these things are fully autonomous, which means that if you're taking one of these things to and from work, or you're grabbing your Uber and you're going across a bay, you can do more valuable things with your time, like maybe get your morning meditation done while you're flying across a bay. I don't know about you, but that sounds pretty awesome to me. So I think these are some pretty compelling reasons that, air taxis are going to be exciting and, provide a lot of benefit. So let's take a quick look at the incredible pace of innovation in this space. So this was shot, I think, late 2011, and this was the very first manned electric flight. And we're going to have a short little video here that'll kind of walk you through and show how quickly this space has evolved just in the last, really, the vast majority of this is in the last 5 years, other than that very first shot. It started with people just building drones, having a drone controller in their hand, and flying themselves around on their drone. And then it has evolved from there. This one's already been tested in Dubai as an air taxi from EHang. This was the next version of that medicine ball drone by Volocopter, who I believe Daimler is behind now. This is one of Larry Page's funded projects by Opener. This is the one that's getting 245 watt hours per mile. This is another Larry Page evolution of the team from Kitty Hawk. So once those props, vertical lift props turn off and you use the pusher prop only, that's an extremely efficient way to get from point A to point B. Same team here from Kitty Hawk. I did that other drone flying in the background. And as you can see, so this is Airbus, and this is pretty significant because what they're doing here is they're showing a transition from a hover flight to forward flight. And notice how the wings and the rotors are tilting. So it's a tilt rotor design. So once it's flying in that forward flight, it's then using the lift from the wings to make flight much more efficient. And then here it is coming out of forward flight. And that just happened maybe 6 months ago, that flight. And then this is one that we've been working on in Austin. And we'll talk a little bit more about this, but it's an interesting model using an ultralight classification. But as you can see, you know, in the last really 5 years, there's just been an amazing amount of effort put into these things and development done. So, you know, what I was really brought here today to talk about or to try to answer for you guys is, when are these things going to be a reality? Is it really just around the corner, or is this thing 15, 20 years away? You know, what are the hurdles to get us from here to there? And so, you know, when are we going to be able to fly these things? Well, to answer that, I think the best way to kind of arrive at a decent estimation of that timeline is to, you know, look back at the technologies that have been developed over the last 10 years that have got us to where we are now. And again, remembering that these eVTOLs are expanded, you know, quadcopters and multi-rotors. They're not shrunk down helicopters and airplanes. So we're gonna look through that, and we're gonna specifically look at the technology, where those hurdles lie, what still needs to be developed there, the regulations, the user experience, and kind of what the funding and the value creation looks like. And so we'll start. I'm gonna kind of walk you through a brief history of the last 10 years in drones. And the first major breakthrough development was with the GPS autopilot. You know, I don't know if there's anyone here that ever flew remote control helicopters, collective pitch remote control helicopters. I see a couple hands, but I mean, maybe one of the most difficult things you can do. I remember when I first built my collective pitch remote control helicopter, because I was going to build a big drone. I built one that was like a 250 size, thinking, oh, it's smaller, it'll be easier to fly. Not the case. So, you know, it was maybe 8 to 10 hours of repairs every time I would do a 2 or 3 minute flight until I crashed it. But when the GPS autopilot came out for remote control helicopters, that allowed for the helicopter to essentially fly itself, which was just, you know, by far the biggest barrier to entry. So this is me. We're shooting a movie in Alaska here, and I'm actually adjusting the camera settings on this red Epic that's on the front of this thing. It's a jet turbine powered 12-foot rotor disc, you know, massive helicopter. I'm flying the helicopter without really even using my hands because the autopilot's doing all the work. This is, by the way, what not to do. This was 10 years ago. I've grown a lot since then. But the GPS autopilot is what made these things easy. then there was kind of two tracks.